Good afternoon, everybody. I saw this interview tweeted out by Question Period one-on-one with Jagmeet Singh, and I watched the interview. I'm interested in all this stuff, clearly, so I wanted to show you the highlights, and I thought, this is interesting. He makes news here talking about being a republic instead of constitutional monarchy. So he talks about that a little bit at the end of the video. But first things first, he dodges this question or doesn't answer this question twice. Even though Mr. Solomon, this is Evan Solomon, I had to look up his name. I didn't know what his name was. So this is Evan Solomon. Asks him twice, what would you do with the governor or the former governor general and her spending? She has $100,000 yearly stipend, like she can spend up to $100,000 without having to give receipts or prove why she's spending it. That's just office expenses. So that's $100,000 extra dollars, plus an annual salary of $140,000. And the last time she was governor general was 2005. He asks, what would you do? And he dodges the question twice. So I'll let them, watch.
General Adrian Clarkson. The National Post reported she's still billing Canadians more than $100,000 a year for what's called office expenses. Her term ended 13 years ago in 2005. She already has an annual annuity of $140,000 a year on top of these office expenses. We don't know where the money goes. What's your view? Do we need to change the rules around former governor generals?
Well, I think Canadians are right to be concerned again about this, thinking, what's the utility? Is there a purpose? Where is it going? Transparency questions are all very fair questions. I think this is another example of where we need to review and ensure that there's transparency and that there's fairness with respect to why the money is being spent and if it's something that's being accounted for in a way that makes sense to Canadians.
Okay, I mean, the rule is, just to be clear, they're allowed, it goes back to 1979, right? If they have office expenses. They don't report if it's under $100,000. What would you, if you were the prime minister, you could be the prime minister in a year, what would you do with this law?
Well, I take a chance to review it to see what's the benefit to Canadians. Is there a role that's being played that provides a value for Canadians, and assess that, look at the impact in terms of value and look at the cost, and then do an analysis and see whether or not this makes sense or not.
So both of the times that he answered the question, he said, review and ensure transparency, see if it makes sense to Canadians. He didn't take a firm position on it. He can escape from that pretty clearly, pretty easily. It's a non-answer. And he was asked point blank, like, Mr. Solomon followed up and said, no, you misunderstood my question. You could be prime minister. What would you do with this law? And he said, nah, nothing. Didn't say anything. He just reiterated the same thing. See what makes sense to Canadians. So there you go. Middle of the road, not willing to take much of a stance on anything for that. So that's kind of weird. And then it follows up with this question. And this is like, it sounds kind of like a throwaway question. And then Singh answers pretty clearly and then follows up with, even more. So it's interesting. So here we go.
Just out of interest, are you a monarchist or a Republican? Like when you get these stories on this, is it time to just get rid of the governor general altogether? What's your view on that?
I'm a Republican, absolutely. Well, that sounds a bit awkward saying that given the other connotation in the States. I believe that we should be a state. I think that makes sense. And I'm open to hearing folks' opinions on that, but that's my take.
Oh, you would like, so that's it. You'd like to end the monarchy. You'd think Canada should be a republic, no more monarchy, no more connection to the crown.
Yeah, I don't see the relevance of it. I don't think that most Canadians do, but I'm open to hearing folks' concern on it, but that's my position. I don't think I think we are a nation and we are proud of our nation and proud of the work we do. We've got a democracy and we're proud of our democracy, and I think that's what most Canadians think is important. I think we should focus on that.
Let's talk about the by-election.
So I think that they could have talked about that for a good 5 minutes just to bring people up to speed. So if you're not up to speed, and I, not to say I wasn't up to speed, but he's talking about Republican. I clearly know that he didn't mean a Trump-supporting Republican from down in the United States. There are different things. And so I looked up Citizens for Canadian Republic. And the link is in the description, as well as everything I talk about. And just to understand what we're talking about here, so everybody's on the same page. Presently, Canada is a constitutional monarchy. It shares its unelected, hereditary head of state, Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom. So our head of state is the United Kingdom's Queen Elizabeth. With that country and 14 other former British colonies. Okay, so there are other countries whose head of state is Queen Elizabeth too. So, as well, Queen Elizabeth II as well. Okay, and Canadian constitutionalism and a national. So this is Republicanism in Canada from Wikipedia, and it says Republicans in Canada assert that their country's monarchy, due either to its popular associations with the United Kingdom, its shared nature, or both, cannot be representative of the Canadian nation. Their position is that because its hereditary aspects and the sovereign's role as supreme governor of the Church of England, though he or she is such in England only, the monarch has no religious role in Canada. The monarchy is inherently contrary to egalitarianism and multiculturalism. Further, though it diverges from both the official position of the Canadian government and the opinions of some judges, legal scholars, and members of the royal family, Republicans deem the King or Queen of Canada to be either solely British or English individual representing a British institution foreign to Canada. So that's the kind of the Coles notes, the very small part of it. And I wanted to make sure everybody understood what a head of state is. It's different than a head of government. A head of government is Justin Trudeau currently, the prime minister. And quote from Wikipedia, and again, link is in the description, a head of state or chief of state is the public persona that officially represents the nation, the national unity and legitimacy of a sovereign state. Depending on the country's form of government and separation of power, the head of state may be a ceremonial figurehead or concurrently the head of government. So in the United States, the head of state is also the president, right? So at this point, Donald Trump, but the president has been canonized in many instances. Okay, so I think that's basically it. So do you agree with Singh that that's making a lot of news with regards to that would be a fundamental change to our system? That would be quite the undertaking for an NDP government to campaign on, I think. I think it would be very difficult to convince Canadians to upend our constitutional monarchy and embrace a republic style government. I don't know. And they don't really get into the system. They don't really get into the hows or not necessarily the whys. I think the whys are self-evident because we are a sovereign nation apart from the United Kingdom. But does that mean we abandon our history? I don't know. Is Canada that much of a post-nation state? I don't know. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry for no videos yesterday. I was busy. And I hope you check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. And I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Thanks for watching.